good evening, everyone. Welcome to Recovery Unplugged Live. Hey, Amy.
Hey,
We have, well, this way, we have
Erin
Amy here.
Miracle.
We have Erin Miracle down there. I'm John Spalding from G1NBC Live, and you're watching Recovery Unplugged Live. How are things?
Hey, you got the name of the show right this week. Hey,
I was,
I've had those
that
moments
was
too.
good. That
I'm
was
just
good,
kidding
right?
you.
That's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, that right. So what's new this week? Lots of stuff. I can announce. Okay, technically, I'm not supposed to announce till Thursday,
Ah,
but I'm gonna announce tonight, and I don't know who's watching, but me and Missy have signed with Linda Arnold of Creative Artists, the individual the lady we had on last week, and already she is who is it responsible for us having a show in development. There's a showrunner interested, and there's an daytime Emmy director interested in looking at our package when we have it all put together. And
how fun.
we're so
That's
it's
awesome.
yeah, and I know you like nothing may come of it, but I've never been this far in the process before. And she guided me on what elements my pitch deck was missing, and what was right about it and what right. And of course, we had to push back the film that I was going to be doing with this young lady here,
Mm,
because of because I had a financial emergency that would not allow me to do it, and to do it in a way I would, you know, I didn't have a lot of money anyway, and that I was trying to MacGyver it, and I was like, no, because I didn't even. I would at least have to have. She's in Colorado, so I would at least have to fly her out, and it wasn't happening. So we're pushing it probably to the fall, but we don't have any fixed dates yet.
okay.
But all the actors are still attached, and there's some developments there, but I have to talk to Missy about them before, right? So the other thing, Letters to Daniel, other than being a TV series in development, we got invited by Movie Guide to submit to their awards gala, and what they're known as is the Christian Oscars. So right, so the version of the film that doesn't have the three cuss words,
Mm-hmm.
and that is on parables, and I submitted to Saltflix, which is another faith-based streaming entity, and that was recommended to me by Deborah Watson. To shout out to her, she runs the Branson International Film Festival. Um, but they have invited me to submit letters to Daniel to their nominations process, and they have a separate category of awards for movies and popular, like mainstream shows that are inspirational or clean or wholesome, or so so the person in charge of Movie Guide told me, "Oh, I love the themes of your show." And when she found out we opened in Vegas and we did a show in Kentucky, she was like, "Okay, right."
Yeah.
So we could submit. So for the Oscars, it's like $12,000. For Movie Guide, it's 500.
Okay.
And so I'm making a plea to anybody out there watching, whether it's $5, $10, $25, $50. If you have a little, please uh, donate to that $500, because I don't have the whole amount, and I just need, like, right. So I think this is an opportunity, and you really should. I don't think I really should pass it up. But if you saw the movie and you love the movie, or you believe in the message of the movie, which is mental health awareness and ending stigma, please donate to my PayPal. It's lynd75@gmail.com. And I'll type it in the comment section afterwards. Or you can go to Facebook where the little $ is on Amy Leigh McCorkle and donate that way, because it ends in my PayPal account that way too.
That Facebook Pay is so easy.
Yes, it is.
I mean, my goodness. My sister was like, well, how does it work? And I'm like, here, I'll send you money. And she's like, that was easy.
But
I will for you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's to get it in. That's to get the film in.
That's to get the film in and to be considered. It's a submissions fee, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Oscars has one, and you know, it's an awards gala, and it takes place. The actual gala, they haven't announced the nominees yet, so there's still time for me to do it. But the actual gala is April 21st.
Okay. All right, everyone.
And
please donate.
Please.
All right, so here's my question. How did you come to know Erin, and what are you looking forward to speaking with her about tonight?
Well, Erin is the first lady of AOF. And of course, that's how I met her. And I look forward to talking to her about her acting and her working with Dell and Queen of AOF, Annabelle Monroe, who we've had on the show. She cried when she was on the show. I felt so bad. I was like, oh no, I told her it wasn't the Jerry Springer show. But it's not, except for John. And talking about her acting career, talking about mental health. And then, of course, we have those fun free-for-all questions at the end.
All right. Well, let's watch the Letters to Daniel trailer, and we'll be back, and Amy is going to interview Erin Miracle.
Dear Daniel Craig, life did not always look like this. This marked a moment of triumph, a way of crushing an abysmal past and daring those with a stereotypical view of those with mental illness to challenge me on any front. To many, this was just a documentary. For me and Missy, this was our life.
It's like my skin is coming off. And my thoughts, they're racing so fast. I can't keep up.
I'm suffering too, you know. You're not the only one.
Like my mind is coming apart and I can't get it to come together.
I think it's more than just that. Amy's been having a really hard time lately. She goes on these crying jags. She explodes without warning. She's so angry and so paranoid these days. She's not the happy Amy that I remember from Kentucky.
She thinks you're manic depressive. I, however, do not. I think this is something you've been obsessing on. I believe that it's all in your head.
Just come here. We're gonna get you some help. I'll be okay. You do have a diagnosis. You have rapid cycling manic depression.
Dear Daniel Craig, bipolar disorder and those that saw it as contagious sought to pull me under, snap me in half, break me down. Even those well-intentioned do-gooders who see therapy and medication as bad and wrong, who see mentally ill individuals as hapless and hopeless, they're wrong. I found hope in your work. A comrade in Missy, my rock when no one else understood. You two are my twin lights when this disease threatened to take me down. And treatment was what got me through. Thank you, Daniel, for your talent and your work. Thank you for everything. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle.
Okay, well, tonight we have a very special guest, the First Lady of AOF, Erin Miracle, an actress on the rise. She lived in Los Angeles for 10 years before she landed in Colorado. Tell us what precipitated that move and how did that lead you to becoming the First Lady of AOF MegaFest?
Well, that's a great question. I never ever thought I would leave Los Angeles. You know, it kind of symbolizes everything that an actress dreams of. It's where movies are made. So I moved out there and was hustling just like everybody, all the other millions of people out there that are trying to make it in the biz.
Yeah.
Which is not, that's no joke. And yeah. There's a lot of levels to that industry that are complicated and sometimes impossible to kind of penetrate, especially depending on what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So there were quite a few factors that were involved in me leaving. I had a contract with a producer for a screenplay that I wrote. And I still have the contract. He was going to produce my feature film. And I kind of started to realize he was maybe a little interested in something more than a professional relationship. And I made that clear, and he didn't like that response, and I didn't really feel like suing him or anything. So that was one of the straws going on there. My apartment.
Well, I'm gonna say, I always said, you know, with like stories like that, I am so glad I found AOF before I made any moves to Atlanta or to LA or any of that. But go on.
Well, that was just one of a jillion times that type of thing has happened. You know, that really.
Hey, I'm so sorry.
Of Los Angeles and that industry. My apartment was being remodeled, so I could either move apartments or just move out. And I considered Colorado at that point. My sister was pregnant and she didn't have a car, and I did. So I was also working at a church. I was a lead producer there and had applied. I was volunteering for a position and applied to get that position officially with a lot of support from other staff, and then didn't get an interview for it, which totally blew my mind and some of the other people that worked there. So it was just kind of a whole bunch of things.
Perfect. So the perfect storm led you to go back. Did you get an offer for a part in Colorado, or was it purely your sister needed someone and you had all these other things kind of building?
Yeah, it was that there was absolutely nothing that I knew of on the horizon for me in Colorado at all. It was really, I just had to get out and the opportunity to help my sister, you know, meant it just seemed like maybe an ordained situation. And an opportunity for me to, you know, catch my breath and get some perspective. So I moved out to Colorado, and I had a moment. I even shared this on an interview with Dell, where I was outside, and it was kind of a stormy night, and I was just kind of screaming to God, like, you know, you've given me these talents, you've given me these desires to work in the film industry in particular, to act, to perform. I've struggled in Los Angeles for a long time and turned down opportunities that I did not think were good. What do you want me to do? I'll do whatever it is, just help me know. And then about 2 weeks later, I was cast as originally as a kind of a minor character in a feature film in Colorado that then turned into the lead role.
Wow.
And that ended up being the film that got me, that got into AOF. And I had worked after that. That was just right after I moved, and I had one after another job opportunity. I was cast and everything. It was just like God answered my question.
I just say I'm gonna say your film. Do you have a preference between? Because I'm a Christian, and Letters to Daniel has two cuts: one for the faith-based industry, one for the mainstream industry, and it's there's not much different. I mean, you're splitting hairs at what is different about them, but do you have a preference or see a difference between the faith-based film industry, and the mainstream film industry?
I do. I think it's an amazing question. And it's something that I think about a lot and care very much about. I do think that there's a really big difference between the faith-based industry and the mainstream industry. I worked for 5 years for a faith-based production company in Los Angeles called Saltworks.
Okay.
And, the director of that company, he did a feature film that was just phenomenal, and it was as faith-based as it gets. I mean, there was absolutely nothing questionable about it. But as they were trying to get it into the faith-based market, there was one shot of a woman's hips kind of as she's walking away, and they were pretty much eliminated from being able to market their film or be sold in certain stores.
Wow.
And as a Christian and as a faith-based film screenwriter and actress, I find myself wanting to push the boundaries or at least bring them together, because I don't think that the Bible itself is very G-rated.
No. What I found, like when I was shopping Letters to Daniel, I went to a particular film festival, and I'm not going to say names because what's a big name, and I don't want to crap where I eat. Like if my career path happens to go down that path, I don't want to. But he said, well, you're overlooking the greatest opportunity you're going to get. And as long as you insist on directing, it will never get made. And then I talked to another guy. He goes, as long as you insist on being a producer on this, it will never get made. And there was another guy who is pretty big director, and that guy said, you're fooling yourself if you think you can get this made. And it wasn't the directors of the festival, it was the people that were there. And I actually had a meeting. Do you know who Cindy Bond is? She was the producer on I Can Only Imagine. And she and her company helped get that out there. And we had a talk about Letters to Daniel. I was coming out of the restaurant and she was coming in. I said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And she said, sure. And I had 45 uninterrupted minutes with Mission International Studios head. And so she said, you would get your story credit. She bought my book right as we were sitting there. And she said, please send it. But you got to understand, this is what would happen if a studio took over it. And you got to decide, do you want to do it or do you want us to do it? And right. And what I heard was, you will get a story by credit. Someone else will do the screenplay. And I was like, I don't like that. I had to have a heart-to-heart with myself, but I insisted on entering a clean version of Letters to Daniel to that festival, just to prove I could probably, I'm going to try to keep it clean to those individuals and naysayers. The only person saying direct, other than Missy, who believed in me, was Dell. Dell was like, I had to have a heart to heart with myself. I actually made a post about it, and he just wrote one word in all caps. He wrote direct. And I thought, okay. And I just, and by that fall, we had an executive producer who really helped us with fundraising, named Erin Allen. And we raised like $2,100, and that was a third of the budget. And without that, we couldn't have made it. But I was like, okay. And then I had AOF family, like Mark Manis, who was the DP extraordinaire. And I had Clint Gage, who did editing. He's already gotten an award for editing on Letters to Daniel. So, they said no. That was where I heard the most no's, was in the faith-based film industry. It was because it was too inspirational for mainstream, but it wasn't faith-based enough for what they look for. And I really wish those industries didn't I think they could actually come together and make some interesting.
Well, and how are people who are full of mistakes or flaws or aren't perfectly clean, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're flaws, but how are they going to be drawn to faith-based work if they're just cast out of it already because of their lack of purity, so to speak, which technically nobody falls under. And I know a lot of my work, I went to seminary to be an ordained pastor, and I was also an American Apparel underwear model.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm a little bit drawn to that in Christianity, in that he really,
the sense of for redemption, right?
Well, and not even.
You could, because God, as they say, God made no mistakes. So that means you're perfectly imperfect, right?
Yeah, Christ is the only perfect one. I'm never, I'm never going to get there.
Right.
None of us are. And I don't think that promoting this impossible purity is helping anyone.
No.
And it's just turning people off to anything faith-based, and really, the dirty work of Christ and love, and he's present, and those things are present in every single story, and they can be stories filled with horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that will judge a lot of the work that I've done, but when I see a lot of God and Christ in all kinds of creative work.
I could tell you, that script you read, the film we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was the first draft was written 24 years ago, right?
I love it.
Yeah, and there was someone who me and Missy worked with at the bookstore, and she liked the read. She read it, and she says, "Oh, I love Luke and Jay." And I said, "Well, what about Gemini and Elise?" She goes, "Well, they're whores."
But Luke and Jay are not.
Yeah, I know, right?
Doesn't really make sense.
Okay, but how did you come to be a part of First Lady?
Well, so my film, Final Transit, the first film I did in Colorado, was accepted into AOF. And I just had a feeling that there was going to be something special about this film festival. So everyone else involved in the film, they stayed maybe 2 days at max. Some just came for the premiere. I booked a suite in the same casino and was like, I'm going to go to every single event, every seminar, every red carpet. Like, I am going to work this thing and just be there and meet people and take advantage of it. I went to seminars with Annabelle, and immediately was just like in awe of her.
No, she's so lovely. She just exudes this confidence and this love, you know.
Brilliant. She's gorgeous, and she's a creative genius, and she has, I mean, skipping ahead, you know, we've worked together now. You know, she has gone through and come out on the other side of mental illness. I read and did a review on her book, you know, and to work with someone or to meet another woman who is so sound of mind and has worked through so many things, and yeah, she's just extraordinary. So I was like totally a fan of hers, and I really wasn't trying to, you know, I kind of started to hear who Del was, but I wasn't trying to, you know, hobnob or
yeah, right, yeah.
So I didn't really even like try to engage with him. I was just trying to soak up all of the awesomeness, and I became good friends with a producer. He produced Yes, a couple movies, and he wasn't going to be there for the second day of the awards and knew that he was going to get some awards, so he asked me to accept his awards on his behalf.
Okay.
And so I, you know, went up there and did my speech, and probably a lot of people that were drinking and not paying attention thought that I was getting an award.
Yeah.
But I apparently at some point when I was kind of backstage waiting, Del was, you know, getting hot up there and needing water, and I saw the need and, you know, brought him a towel or just attended to need.
Yeah, you just were kind.
Yeah. And I guess I had that reputation throughout the whole time I was there, was just loving on people and paying attention to people and trying to help and serve. And
that's what AOF is about.
Noticed that. And then he asked me, he did an interview with me on his podcast.
Yeah.
And then he asked me about being the first lady of AOF. And I said, yes. Yes, please.
Okay. What made you dive into such a highly competitive industry, and how did you handle that? And how have you handled that emotionally?
I feel like I was kind of born. I mean, my earliest memories were watching these old movie musicals with my dad, especially, and I just couldn't think of anything else I would rather do than be a performer in one of these movies. And I started dancing at the age of like 3.5, ballet, and I was in theater and singing, and loved performing on stage, but there was definitely nothing like movies.
Right.
So it was kind of like my entire life since I can remember. That was just 100% what I wanted to do. And my dance teacher growing up, she really wanted me to be a ballerina. So I had auditioned the weekend before for CalArts. And CalArts was outside of Los Angeles, had a great reputation, incredibly difficult school to get into, but also a little more liberal and not just ballet. And then the following weekend, I had to audition for University of Utah, which was about as strict ballet as it gets. And I really didn't fit in. It just wasn't, as much as I love ballet, there's just so much more to me. And emotionally was a little bit devastated by that audition, just feeling like, you know, I really wasn't good enough for this ballet school. And then I came home, and that night I got the acceptance into CalArts and was like, well, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to Los Angeles. It'll be closer to Los Angeles, and that'll be the first step in that direction. And you know, I've never a lot of the people that I grew up performing with or going to school with have found other paths than acting, you know, over time, which I completely understand. And some of them I feel like were made for what they're doing now. But for me, I just could never stop. But emotionally, it is torment. And, you know, I have suffered from PTSD, from abuse and a variety of traumatic events, assaults and stuff like that, that really contribute to the challenges in living and pursuing something like acting in Hollywood, because
you know,
scary.
And, you know, I'm going to tell you, because you're the product, right? Like me, it's close to home when someone says, oh, your script sucks. You know, you feel like they're saying you suck. You internalize it. But for me, there's still that distance because there's this thing I'm holding, or there's this file that's on my computer, you know, that, you know, and it's not about me. But when you're acting, I'd imagine it's really hard not to internalize when people reject you.
Yeah, it is, especially for someone with anxiety or trauma, or I mean, it can make you an anxious person after a while. It's so much rejection. It's so focused on your beauty and also your personality and being able to turn it on. And if you're struggling with depression or other emotional issues at the time, to also dive into these characters. And I would have, when I was pursuing it like completely, I would have 5 to 10 auditions just in a week. And that's that many different characters. And you know, the entertainment industry films, they're not just docile moments in a person's life. They are like
heightened drama.
It is extremely intense emotionally.
Yes.
And then the surviving in Los Angeles on top of it, making enough money to do the work it's a lot.
Yeah. What has been the most satisfying role you've been able to breathe life into?
It was definitely in the film that I just starred in with Del Weston. It's called Old King Cole. And it is a girl who is a dancer, and she's come to Las Vegas to audition to take over a dance studio. Without giving certain things away.
Yeah, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Well, there are, you know, he really wrote the part for me.
Del's a brilliant writer.
He is.
Del, I mean, he's a brilliant everything.
He is. And I'm a screenwriter, and I'm a book snob. I'm a snob for good writing, and he is unbelievable. So that was an incredible opportunity, because he wrote it with me, an opportunity for me to dance. It was really emotionally challenging. The character she goes through, you know, this is not a basic character. And then I get to speak in German, which I grew up part of my life in Germany. So he just did everything.
Wow. God, I wish I'd been there. Been a part of it.
Supposedly doing the sequel pretty soon. So.
Oh. Well, we'll see how I'm doing, like what I owe, like, because I just want to take this opportunity to say my previous manager is a beautiful human being, and I love her, and she worked hard as everything on my behalf. It just felt like, you know, new year, new direction. It was right. I feel like she was wonderful. It was just time to take a step in a new direction. And that's all it was. I just want to praise her, because she is a wonderful person and a wonderful manager. She was. But back to what you were saying, Del also has this talent, and he's a talent. He's everything, but he also sees the potential, right? He can look, I mean, I wish I don't know if I wish you'd seen it, but I did a proof of concept documentary that I took to AOF, and I submitted the screenplay, and I went with zero expectations. When the documentary was nominated, I was floored. I was like, what does he see in this, right? And because I'd had some bad experiences that year. The Letters to Daniel, the narrative film in 2015, 9 days out from production, just certain things happened and we had to pull the plug on it, and it was devastating to me. And I was like, oh, it was awful. And then I had another bad experience. And so when I got to September of 2016, which is when I was first right? So that's when I was first introduced to AOF. I just felt this incredible love. That's what we talked about that was the one thing I'll let out is everybody talked about, like, it's just love everyone. That's what AOF is about.
It is. It's exceptional to find someone, especially in this industry like Del, who can see the potential in people and will take the chance. And he's someone where virtually everyone I encountered in Los Angeles would promise things or, say this was going to happen, and then it would always fall through. And what that does to someone emotionally, it creates neural pathways, and it's traumatizing to get to be brokenhearted that many times. And so even with him, it was like, my instincts were saying, this is going to fall apart. This isn't going to happen. But every single thing that he has promised or, offered me, he's delivered on. And that is it's just changed. It's a game changer.
Yeah. It's like I said, AOF changed my life. AOF just changed everything. We are also, as I mentioned, we are also working together on a film. What compelled you to take the role of Elise in You're the Reason?
I really love the script, first of all. Like I said, I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to writing.
Oh my God, I feel so honored.
And I do. I loved the script. I don't want to give anything away either. When I first was introduced to the character, I was like, oh, okay, she's kind of the rich, snobby girl, which I don't identify with at all. And so I was like, maybe I would, rather play the other lead. And then as I started reading, I appreciated so much that you didn't make her a stereotype. She is complex and lovable and deep, and to see her interact with Luke versus Jay, and then the backstory with her father and her mother, I get chills. Actually, I the character.
I'm gonna tell you that when we were writing, we had to that was the first draft, not the current draft, but the first draft me and Missy wrote in 5 days, and Elise, look, Gemini thinks Elise is that snobby bitch. But she and Missy always worried in that draft that you wouldn't see her inner strength, that even though she was a soft character, she had a core of steel. And I would always be telling her this, but I said, Missy, it's not that I don't like Elise. It's that Jim and I don't like Elise. But I will be sure to pass your words on, because we crafted those characters together. And, you said that was our first, it was our first real script that got heat. Like, that draft got the interest of Zod Perry, who, as you know, did the American Pie movies while they were together before they, right? And Lee Daniels, right as Monsters Ball was breaking through. And he, like, Hollywood don't give no pep talks. They don't take time. But he passed on the movie, on the script twice. Like, it went through. We got a call from his office, and it said, we're going to pass. That was in the summer. Then in December of the same year, we get a call. This was after we got back from Texas. And I'd really like to include that. He goes, listen, this isn't exactly what we're looking for, but you all have what it takes. So keep doing it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, yeah. But nobody's going to take time in A-list Hollywood to tell you to keep going. So we hung on to that. That was, for the longest time, our claim to fame, that we almost got picked by Lee Daniels.
Well, it's got all the elements of a great, something that I would want to watch.
Yes.
It's got the commercial elements. It's got the romantic elements. It's not two-dimensional at all. So
I'm looking forward to shooting it. It's just going to, and we were really upset, but we had no choice. I said, Missy, I don't want to do a half-baked version of this movie. And actually, we wouldn't be, if we do it in the fall, it'd probably be over 2 4-day weekends. We'd have 8 days as opposed to 4, which is, although not anywhere near ideal, much more doable. But okay, next question. Okay, we are both excited to be a part of the AOF family. You touched on this. What film led you to your familiarity with AOF?
Well, like I said, Final Transit is what got me into AOF.
Right.
But then I went and I went to as many screenings as I had time for. And the films that I mentioned with Rob Margolis.
Yes.
The film Yes. And his other film, which was titled Wait at the time. They were lower budget, but so full of heart and quality. The actors some of them were actually, well-known actors. It was so inspiring to meet and to be sitting next to the writer and producer, meeting him there, finding this connection and seeing his extraordinary work and hearing his kind of philosophy. It just made it feel like, okay, this is a lot more tangible and possible to kind of get out of Hollywood, where there's just such a large gap, and to be in the midst of people making extraordinary work that weren't necessarily big A-list. It wasn't from a major studio, but it was just as quality, was really inspiring.
Okay. Now we're going to pivot and talk a little bit more about mental health. And you touched upon this. In what way has mental illness touched your life?
It has touched my life in a lot of ways. My dad is a retired therapist for the military. Mm-hmm. And he actually now has dementia, frontal temporal dementia.
I'm so sorry.
His sister is quite advanced with hers. And this is just the most recent kind of interaction with.
Right. That's like from a caregiver's perspective.
Yeah, this is just a new part of my life. But I was pretty happy kid, phenomenal parents and childhood. We moved to Germany when I was 11, and I was in the German schools and was bullied relentlessly, and not just, it was severe physical abuse. Like in shop class, they'd nail through a piece of wood and slice my arm open.
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry.
It was every day, all day.
Yeah. I had bad middle. If that's middle school, that I had the nightmare.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
That was really the first experience, kind of traumatic experience. It was mostly physical abuse, and then it near the end it got a little sexual. And my dad, being a therapist, he really even still kind of identifies that as the beginning of any of my mental struggles with health. But throughout my young adult life, I've dealt with sexual assaults from a very famous dance teacher in Chicago, in seminary, in the housing, just an unbelievable amount. And those traumatic events do so much to your neural pathways. And just like anybody who has been in a traumatic experience, even if it's just maybe like a car accident, your body and your mind develop responses to that to kind of protect you in the future. But those responses can really make you kind of shut down, very, very scared about things. It heightens your anxiety. So those really compounded too, when it was one after another. And I've definitely done a lot of therapy. At the age of 15, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and did a lot of work with a therapist and a psychiatrist. Same with after the sexual assaults, worked with therapists. But once I got to Los Angeles, it was survival mode as far as money, and I didn't have as much of that luxury. But that was where kind of those mental and emotional problems were affecting my life tremendously, and I developed an eating disorder, which was completely devastating. And I would starve myself for days, or work out sometimes 6 hours in a day, and then if I ate even just a little bit, my body dysmorphia would kick in, and I wouldn't go to auditions, I wouldn't go out to socialize. And it was for a couple years, it was this cycle of starving, then binging, and a lot of opportunities were missed because, the anxiety of being in front of people, in front of a camera, was definitely too much to handle. So that was,
yeah. You talk about opportunities missed. Whenever I came back, when me and Missy moved back from Texas to Kentucky, we got a note back. We got a letter back, and he said, "Hey, I told you to send this script," because actually a producer came into the bookstore and I pitched all the scripts we had, and he wanted to read You're the Reason. And that version, what I didn't realize when he read the script, and then he sent another letter, and then but what he was basically doing, and I didn't know it, and I was very sick at this time, he was giving us notes on what to do on the next draft. And I basically wrote, if you read that letter, that sick Amy's letter, like basically saying, I'm not going to change my script for you. And then I never heard from him again. So it's like, you dummy. But maybe that wasn't the movie I was supposed to make. Maybe it's this one. So, when you are in the depths of an illness, a mental illness, opportunities are going to pass you by. Like, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's hurt. Like, she was just getting into, she was at Zod Perry, like entry level. And she was taking pitches at the Austin Film Festival in 1999. and she's bigger now. Like, she's really successful. But you know, there's some things, like, you know who Scott Frank is?
Mm-mm.
He actually is the creator and screenwriter behind the Queen's Gambit.
Oh yeah.
He did Godless, of the Western, Get Shorty, you know, Out of Sight, you know. And I said something, like, I was so manic when I went up to talk to him after the seminar. I said the dumbest thing, and I'm not going to repeat it because so when Jamie Foxx gave his acceptance speech and he talked about how much of a, like, when he first met Denzel Washington, he made an absolute jackass out of himself. Well, that's what I did. I said, I hope he doesn't remember me. I like Jamie Foxx says, I hope he doesn't remember the first time we met.
Well, it's those, you know, it's interesting because in a scene in Old King Cole, I didn't even realize in the weeks and weeks that I was preparing for the role, this is a confrontation where she is confronting this dance teacher who really traumatized her back in the day, and this dance teacher doesn't even remember her. But
yeah,
dance teacher totally, that moment changed everything about my character's life. And in the filming of it, this was the first day of filming, and I was filming with Annabelle, and I was so intimidated because Annabelle is so incredible. And here I am with this starring role. This is the role of a lifetime, and it's in German. All of it was in German.
Yeah.
You know, she's German, of German descent.
Right.
I'm, you know, I've only just lived there. And there was a moment where I realized we're on camera and I've got to bring the tears and the emotion. And I realized I was like, that dance teacher that assaulted me, it was like the lines that were written for me in the movie.
He knew.
It was like I was able to work through and confront the dance teacher that hurt me so many years ago. And I didn't even think about it, but in that moment, and then the emotions that came. So, you know, I really believe that the struggles and the pain and the disappointments or the missed opportunities or the challenges I've had with mental health, you know, they certainly have made me a better artist, a better writer, a better actor, but also a better friend to people that are going through similar things, where I can actually relate or understand or sit beside them and be a good friend.
My actress, I call her Jenny, but like professionally, like on all credits, it's Virginia Veld. But Jenny is a caregiver for an elderly mother who has bipolar disorder, and she's the only child. And she said, she came up to me on the last day of filming after we filmed the last scene and said, thank you. This allowed me to work through a lot of stuff that I have been carrying around. And I was like, you know, as a director, you know, maybe you don't think much about that. But as someone who has bipolar disorder, and, you know, because Letters to Daniel wasn't just any other movie. This was the movie. Me and Missy called it our home run swing. And it really did. We were lucky. It ended up being that. So, but I understand what you're saying, and it does mean something to me when an actress or an actor comes up to me. Like I did another movie, and production value wise, like the way it looked, it didn't look the way I wanted it to, but my actors were superb. And Brandon, this is, you know, you're the reason it's going to be our fourth film together, and this was the second. And I had written a scene a certain way. He goes, Amy, you've got it right, but I've kind of lived this scene. I said, you cheated on your wife? Oh, he goes, oh no, she cut my balls off. You know, but when he did his version, it was like, it was very believable and very organic, and it allowed him to do something that maybe he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
And I think that that is more of the Christian responsibility, or at least I feel, is to show life in reality, to show painful, dark experiences, people who aren't perfect, who struggle with, mental health issues or addictions, or, to show just a perfect picture isn't helping anybody, but to live through it, or to show a story that is full of all of the spectrum of life is a lot more helpful.
Humanity, just showing, has your choices, how have your choices and what scripts you accept for, a role to play been influenced by your experiences with mental illness, and if so, in what way?
That was part of Los Angeles. There was a lot of auditions for the bikini girl, or the blonde with one line, very stereotyped roles, very generic typecasts, one note. And I really couldn't get into that. So that hurt me a little bit, because I just didn't want to put the effort into those type of parts.
There's just, it's like George Clooney said, this shit over here I'll eat. This shit over here I won't.
Yep. And I am drawn to, and that's also why I haven't been super successful as like a commercial actor, but very successful as, in more theatrical dramas or feature films, or even short films, because I'm drawn to these really complex characters that are going through crazy emotional experiences. And I've enjoyed playing villains. I've enjoyed playing parts in horror movies. I like the challenge, and I like to explore the depth of the human soul and the human experience, versus just playing, base type characters that don't really challenge anyone.
Okay. So you currently are working, as you said, on O King Co. with Del Weston and Queen of AOF, Annabelle Monroe, and Lorene Wu. What is it about them? What is it like working with such powerhouses?
Who do I start with?
Start with the king, Del.
Working with Del, he is definitely a king. He is, what you dream of when you think of someone discovering you. He's powerful and gets things done, and in a big way, and he promises the world, and then he actually delivers it. But he's also like, working with him as the co-star and the love interest, he is this teddy bear who is so tender and gentle and sensitive on the inside, and watching him produce this movie and be this king and so powerful and amazing, and then watching him break down in these scenes so honestly was just humbling, to say the least. He is a total dream come true, and we're working on all kinds of things together, where we're developing one of my screenplays together. We're working on music together, poetry. He does do like everything, and he sees that in me and is drawing out all of the best in me. So there's really no one like him. I just think.
No, and Teresa
I
is just
know.
like, and she's just as wonderful. It's pure love. When you go to AOF, it's like pure love.
Well,
Okay.
definitely the woman behind the man.
Yes.
And she's also an incredible cook, and their children are incredible. And
yes, her son August designed the logo for my film festival.
I did not. All I know is that he's like talented, and they're all just so incredible at everything.
Okay, so what about Annabelle?
Wow. Annabelle, I mean, like I said, when I met her, I was just floored by her beauty, her presence, her confidence, her incredible amount of knowledge about things. Then I read her book about her journey.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It is, with dementia. It's called The Skeleton Key. And I couldn't put it down. And I felt like, because of my own struggle with an eating disorder, and also growing up, she talks about her life in Germany and my beginning of my traumatic experiences, but also some extraordinary experiences were in Germany. So I felt like I knew her on such an intimate level before I even got to working with her, from reading her book. And then working with her, seeing her dynamics with Dell. They're very, very powerful, and they feed off each other, and they really work to bring out the best in one another. She was also the director, so it was co-produced. I am listed as a director, but they were definitely doing the majority of the directing. And I have never worked, I feel like, with anyone more tuned into creativity. It just like flows through her, where she will, in any moment, she's just open to the universe, to tuning into so much creativity, and throw out all of these brilliant ideas, and just turn even just a little tiny shot of, some insert of something small. She would turn it into something 100 times more magical, just by interjecting these creative ideas that were just so astounding to watch and to be a part of. Her eye as a director, her direction with me as an actor was, she opened up so many more options, and there were times when it was overwhelming. There was one particular scene that I felt so intimately close to my character in, that I asked to not have anyone direct me on it. And we will see in the outcome, maybe I really, messed up and should have had Dell or Annabelle direct me in that moment. And for the most part, Annabelle directed me the majority of the time. But we'll see.
Well, what she directed you, her direction in that case was to give you no direction and give you the opportunity to succeed on your own right. And if you got a director and and she's in tune with you that well, she wouldn't have let you go out. She wouldn't have let you go out. She had the rope, she had you tethered, but she wouldn't let you go out there if she didn't think your instincts were right.
It was just incredible to work with, and then to watch her act.
Yeah.
So incredible.
So what was working with Lorene like? She is so sweet and so soft-spoken.
Yep. So when I first started with her, like you said, she's very, very soft-spoken. And then I had to go run an errand, and she drove me. And that was our first time to really start
get to know each other. Yeah.
And I'm asking about her life, and I find out she's like, was this big, huge TV director in China who, was kicked out of China essentially for interviewing people with political ideas that didn't suit the government, and her strength and courage.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. I can't even imagine the stuff that she goes through.
You know what she says? She always says when we're working together, whenever we're like on the meeting or whatever, she goes, thank you for this opportunity. Yeah. She knows better than anybody how quickly it can be taken away.
And she was my confidant, and sort of we became, or at least she became my best friend on set for sure.
Aww.
We would stay up late and go out in the back in the dark at night and talk about life and, you know, all of my insecurities on set or hers or whatever. She also gave me so much wisdom in kind of managing certain aspects of filming. She really has so much wisdom and advice, but she won't just lay it out there for you because she's not somebody who's, you know, likes to listen to herself speak. But if you are able to draw it out of her, it's just pure gold. I know she mentioned wanting to maybe work with me as an actor, which is now one of my ultimate goals, is to be in something that she directs.
She's gonna knock it out of the park.
She's just unbelievable human being, and she was able to direct too, which was night and day from Dell and Annabelle, and that was just such another part of the film that made it so special. Is there was just so many different people from so many different perspectives making it amazing.
With the craziness of the world today, how do you maintain balance and peace of mind?
It's not really very popular, I don't think. Like on Facebook, my posts recently in dealing with it, I don't like to subscribe to one side or the other. Not that there aren't moments where you have to pick a side.
You know what my therapist said? Don't watch the news.
I usually don't, except in these, you know, super intense moments. But I always turn to kind of Christ's opinion on certain matters. And I find that, you know, in so many instances, when people were pressuring Christ to give to claim one side or the other of a topic, he would come in with a whole other perspective that blew everything else out of the water. So in particular right now, with these two-sided debates where it feels like half of my friends are on one side and half of my friends are on the other.
I wish you would have been able to be at the meeting Saturday because Laurel said it best. She said, I don't believe in fences.
Yeah.
I don't believe in fences. And then there was the love everyone thing. And I was like, yeah, that's what's so special.
Yeah.
And
I think, you know, usually if you're looking at like a 6 or like if you're on this side and someone's on this side, the same number is going to look like a 9 to someone and a 6 to someone else. And both those people are right. And that's not to say that there aren't instances where there is right and wrong. But I've
always heard there's your side, there's my side, and then there's the truth.
That's Hegel's theory of correlation too, is you can take two opposing theses and draw a circle around it, and then you have one, just automatically by including, and really listening.
I will be honest, when I saw them take the Capitol, it freaked me the fuck out. So
I think it traumatized everyone.
I think it traumatized everyone. But I'm not going to get into it because I'm so happy that the TV is not on in my room and there's no news. So okay. What other projects do you have in the hopper?
We have a lot. Well, I have You're the Reason with you. Oh. We're supposed to be filming the sequel to Old King Cole very soon. I just did Dell is doing a book of poems that will be an interactive book that we shot a bunch of footage for and photos for. So that should be coming out pretty soon, which was really very unique.
Oh, is those pictures what you posted? Oh man, that's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. And he's doing the poetry, and oh my gosh,
yeah,
poetry is incredible. We are developing. I wrote a screenplay called Circus, but I don't really want to talk too much about it. But Adele and I have been working on the script and development of getting that ready for production. That's totally my, heart poured into a story. So that's very, very, it's a musical with original lyrics that I've already started writing. And it's got a faith, it's faith-based, but it's also wildly entertaining, and hopefully that will happen pretty soon. And I'm in the vicinity of, I'm about 6 hours from Albuquerque, which is where Netflix is based out of.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of one of my goals for this new year. In between all of these projects, that especially with Dell, I mean, there's an app that we are working on that is completely separate from the film industry. But I would like to start, I'd like to get a big agent in New Mexico and really start trying to put my name in the bucket over there, especially with Netflix.
Okay. Finally, I think this is for finally, let's have a little fun.
Okay, this is already.
Yeah, so, right? If your life were a movie, what would the title be?
Oh, it would probably be something like I Believe in Miracles, or Making Miracles, because I think my entire life is certainly based on that belief in miracles.
Okay. If you could cast anyone in the known cinematic universe to play you in that movie, who would you cast? Now, I know you're an actress, so would you cast yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's the answer Del gave. So
yes, I would definitely cast myself.
Okay. Do you plan to move back to Los Angeles, or are you, well, you said that, you kind of answered that question, or are you planning to travel from Colorado?
I only intended to be in Colorado for 2 months. So actually an entire 1-bedroom is still in storage, and this is 2 years later. I think, especially the way that the film industry is going with places like Atlanta, Albuquerque, New Mexico, with COVID and theatrical releases, everything's kind of shifting. And I feel like, well, one, I love Colorado and it's beautiful. And I am now, I'm flying out to Vegas all the time. I was going to Kentucky. Albuquerque is really close. Los Angeles. And also with COVID, the process of auditioning is almost entirely online now.
Yeah.
So I could see myself, finding a home here and settling down here, and then just flying off to all these wonderful places to work.
As a writer, unless I get a series, right? And unless our series, right, because it's in development and that's really exciting, and we got certain elements interested, and if I had to move to a location because that's where the series was filming, I would be willing to relocate. But really, as a writer with Zoom, I can do it from anywhere.
Yep. It's wonderful. And I think it's moving more and more in that way in our industry.
While I love my state, I don't necessarily want to live here forever. I was thinking, I said, Missy, I was like, if I were going to relocate, I would think of Vegas because I know people there, because there's film family there. There's film family who love me. And like, right, I just found out today that a festival that delayed until March of this year, where Letters to Daniel finished second place, is probably going to have to go virtual. And they usually don't ship awards. I'll get my awards, and that's fine. But, you know, I don't know if they can pull it off, but I ain't been to an online festival yet that's been great shakes. So, but I do understand it's a matter of necessity, and they can't control, because you know what the regulations are in their state. And
yeah, if Dell asked me, you know, many times, but one of the times he said, if you could have anything, what would you want from him? And I said, I want to go to Cannes Film Festival.
yes.
Oh, it's done. That's done. We'll do that, no problem. So hopefully, I don't know if it'll be on this year. I know France is one of the most shut down places, but
yeah,
that's definitely something that we are gonna do when we can.
And just so you know, those people, like I had someone tell me I wouldn't get the DVD anywhere for Letters to Daniel because it was only an hour, and it was a dude. He was and all these people I think were well-intentioned who say you can't, but it's on like right, it's theatrical, streaming, DVD, and then I got a manager who was willing to sign me and Missy, and then this TV series. You know,
you inspire me. I see you every day making these opportunities and not listening to any no. You were just amazing to me.
Well, you know, if you can, I'm going to tell you what I tell myself. I survived freaking bipolar disorder. And you survived some pretty heinous stuff too, and you are bad, and you are surviving mental illness. And if you can look that, nothing. It's like if they reject you and they don't. Wait, I've had my books called Everything from Brilliant to Pornographic. Yeah. You think it bothers me?
I know.
So, okay. So we're gonna go here. What is your greatest hope for your career?
My greatest hope. Ultimately, I'd like to have a production company, Miracle Makers.
Oh, that's a great title.
I know, because really the concept of the title is
that should be the title of your movie too.
I have a production company already called Miracle Makers. It's just very small, but the idea is that people coming together. You know, I'm not your traditional actress, which is why I also wasn't necessarily super successful in Los Angeles, but now am growing in success quite rapidly, because I don't want just the acting. I screenwrite, I direct. Having a production company, I'd be able to hire and employ all of these amazing people.
I am going to tell you, you should, if you have screenplays and you deal with mental illness, you should enter my festival.
Yes. I have two already that are produced.
Hey, like, right? Message me after, hang out with me after we close out of here. And last question, what advice do you have for up and coming actors and actresses also battling mental illness?
I definitely advise anybody, but especially performers, to get into therapy, especially EMDR. We didn't talk about it. It's something
you can take a chance right now too. I know what it is, so explain to my audience what it is.
My dad specializes or did before he was retired with EMDR. It was developed for post-traumatic stress, specifically with people in the military. where trauma like that doesn't really get resolved with talk therapy.
Right.
EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprogramming. What we do when we're asleep is we have REM, and our brain is actually taking our experiences from the day, from the emotional side, and using the movement of the eye is transferring it from one side of the brain to the other, to the logical side where it can be processed. EMDR is a therapy that works not just with people with trauma or PTSD, people with addiction, with anxiety, with all kinds of behavioral problems, and uses this same process to shift it from the emotional side of the brain to the logical side of the brain, using tapping or following fingers or little buzzers. And it is so effective. It's really incredible. And it's grown in popularity. There are therapists all over. I mean, there is almost definitely one near you. So I really encourage everyone, and especially performers, to be in therapy and to work on these issues, because we self-sabotage, and that's with faith too. We see it there. Fear is this enemy, and it will eat us alive if we don't work to confront it. And the other thing is, I just encourage, here I am having had so much rejection and so much failure, and I know a lot of people that gave up, but I haven't, and that may have looked or felt like, I was just a fool chasing after something that never happened. And then the next thing you know, you keep going and you keep working, and then you're starring, in this movie where all of everything you've ever wanted to do in a movie, you get to do. And you're working with people who see all of your gifts and all of these visions that I've had since I was a little girl, that other actors and people, I just encourage people to have faith, to not give up, to not give in to fear, and to just get up and keep going and believe.
Okay, well, John, you have any questions or comments from the audience?
No questions tonight. Hold on one second. Let me get this view correct. Excuse me. No, I have just a reflection. I mean, the way that you talked, Erin, and the way that you shared, I really appreciate. And one thing about doing Recovery Unplugged live is we handle all aspects of mental health, and it didn't dawn on me that someone who has experienced some type of trauma is also included in that category, right? I always think about a diagnosis or something like that, but with your story and kind of what you went through, that was really impactful. And the way that you speak to it, and the way that you were able to, because we always talk about on this show, how do we use creativity to be better advocates, and to talk more about mental health and overcome the stigma, break the stigma, and just be real with each other and have these types of conversations. The way that you were able to assume that role, and it helped you work through other things from your past that had put you to where you are, and what you talked about. That was eye-opening to me. I really appreciated that perspective. It really encapsulates what we're talking about here, and how we're trying to engage with folks about talking about this stuff. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you guys.
Well, I feel, yeah.
Great. I mean, it was an awesome interview. I mean, the depth of your guys' experience and all that stuff. So
I had such a bad day. I forgot to write the questions. And at 8 o'clock, at 8:15, I'm going.
You don't say that stuff till after we've turned off the live.
Just let people know. The secret's in the sauce.
They would have never known. They would have never known. Excuse me.
I was afraid it was not going to be a good interview because I wasn't feeling on top of my game. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
Because I've been at that point where I haven't wrote the questions, but I haven't felt like this. Because it was just I had a total meltdown, anxiety meltdown today. So
So,
I tell ya, I
right?
get too. My goodness.
Interesting times we're living in here, folks. Interesting times.
Like nothing else.
Right? I mean, how can you, like, I've never, like, I'm able to say that my kids will be a generation that has, I'm sorry, lived through a pandemic. Hopefully. Sorry.
I really do think that the entire world and our country has been traumatized. You know, the pandemic and being so afraid. I mean, listening to the interview with your manager and her sister being so scared to get treatment that she passed. These are traumatizing events. To see what happened at our Capitol.
Yeah.
These are scary, scary things. And
Right.
and we don't want to move. And it's like with trauma, you get these neurological responses and it creates these pathways that create behavior. And we want to heal that trauma and recognize the trauma. Otherwise, we're going to live in these responsive reactions to it forever. And that's not healthy. We want to be free again one day. And I do pray that we can address these traumatic events as a nation and as a world.
Okay.
I hope so. I hope so, and I think we will. I really do. I think that, yeah. Amy.
Yes.
Quit looking at your phone. I mean, who's coming up next week?
I don't know. I think it's Haven. I just haven't been able to pin him down because he owns Emmy Sports, and he's like a sports commentator and a political commentator, and he also owns
what kind of sports does he talk about?
Extreme all. Like he covers all the sports. And he owns it. They are the Extreme Football Louisville is the first all-black owned football team in the history of football.
Wow.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have Haven next week.
I hope so.
Monday at 9:30 p.m. on Recovery Unplugged Live.
Yes, he said he was fine with that time.
Cool. All right, Erin Miracle, thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys so much.
Stick around and chit-chat with Amy, and we'll see you all next Monday. Right? We're going to we can talk to each other if we don't have Haven.
Yes.
For a half hour.
Have you interviewed Lorraine?
That's who I want to interview. I'll probably ask her to be on.
Here we go.
Fascinating.
We might have the next 2 Mondays filled. Bye, everyone.